Hi, this is Andre. Melodic repitching, or pitch shifting, involves two ideas. The first is to change the pitch of a loop without changing its speed or timing. The second is to be able to change the pitch by precise musical intervals so that you can literally play the loop melodically like an instrument. Now, the HX Stomp has several modules that will change the pitch of the input signal while retaining its timing and speed. This makes sense because the HX and Helix ecosystems are designed first and foremost for live musicians, and we want to keep the timing of our live playing as intact as possible. The HX Stomp is not specifically set up for melodic repitching, but it does allow block parameters to be controlled by MIDI using continuous controllers, also known as CCs. What I've done here is assign the interval control on a pitch block to a specific continuous controller. I then went through all 127 possible values in that CC and made notes of which values corresponded to specific intervals in the pitch blocks. I'll make those values available to download in the description below in case you want to try this yourself. Finally, I programmed some banks on the Arturia Beatstep, assigning those different CC interval values to different pads so that I could access specific musical pitches at the push of a button. Let's take a closer look. Okay, here's a loop I built up off camera. This is just the one switch looper. So we're going to add a pitch block. We are going to start with simple pitch. As soon as we add that, this is what we get by default. It loads with a +7 interval and a 50% mix. We're going to crank the mix to 100% so we only hear the pitch shifted value. Now the simple pitch has a 2-octave range up and a 2-octave range down. So you can go 2 octaves up, 2 octaves down. So 48 different pitches potentially. And we're going to keep it at 0 for right now. Now, in previous HX Stomp videos, we've talked about assigning different block parameters to different controls on the HX Stomp. You can also assign it to MIDI command. So we're going to come down to MIDI CC, and we're going to select MIDI CC 12. And that is because I have already programmed banks on the Arturia Beatstep using MIDI CC 12. So I'm going to call up the first bank, and we're going to do this. You try coming up with a song that everybody knows that will pass YouTube copyright. Go ahead. Get back to me when you're done. Yeah, that's right. So this basically gives us an octave up. We have major intervals on top, minor intervals on the bottom. That's a flat 5 or sharp 4. Yes, they're the same thing because that's easier for me to visualize. Minor third, flat 2. That's our root. These are kind of the wild card keys. So I have this doing that extremely dignified and refined and highly cultured, very serious glissando effect that just drops you down an octave. And that's our regular pitch. And I think this does a goofy scroll through things. Yep. So of course this is when I'm scoring the really dramatic, somber scene in the award-winning drama film, right? Okay. So this bank is the first octave up. This is the original pitch. That's an octave up. There's a second octave that goes above that, which I have stored on bank 3. So it starts with an octave up and goes to 2 octaves up, which is there. And the same idea. Minor intervals on the bottom. Minor or altered intervals on the bottom, I should say. Major and perfect intervals on top. What does the wild card do in this one? Another very serious glissando effect. Oh, 2 serious glissando effects. All right. So this is when you really want to tug on the heartstrings of the audience. You can also go 2 octaves down. So this is the first octave down, and I have it set up like a piano keyboard. So if you go that way, it ascends. If you go that way, it descends. So that starts with the original pitch. It's the same combination of major and perfect intervals on top, minor and altered intervals on the bottom, and the obligatory wildcards. And that just drops you straight down to 2 octaves below. There's also a dedicated bank for the second octave down. Alright, so let's do this. Let's switch to a different block. We're using simple pitch. Simple pitch is a 48 range block. In other words, you can go 2 octaves down and 2 octaves up. So it covers a 48 note range. We're going to go to the Poly Capo, which does not cover a 4 octave range. It covers a 2 octave range. And that's important for the following reason. If we assign the interval on the Poly Capo to the same continuous controller, which is Continuous Controller 12. And if we use the same banks that we were using for simple pitch, it's going to sound all weird. And I like weird sound, but this is not really giving us the layout we wanted. That's because the Poly Capo block only has half the available range. That means that the continuous controller scales differently to a 24 note range than it does to a 48 note range. So long story short, it means you have to find different continuous controller values for a 24 range bank. I already did that, thank you. So here is my Poly block bank. Same arrangement, major and perfect intervals on top, minor and altered below. No obnoxious glissando there. We do have an obnoxious glissando here. So that scrolls through all the available range one at a time. Not a glissando though, because you can hear the notes stepping. Get it right, Andre. So we have 1 octave above, original, 1 octave up. There's also a bank for the Poly Capo that gives us the octave below. So original pitch, octave down. And then we can go to the octave up again.